Before this story opens, I need you to know something important. What I am about to share is not easy to carry in the heart. It began as a normal life, strong and respected, but it slowly turned into fear, loss, and deep pain that followed me everywhere. From the first moment to the last, every step changed me. As you read, stay with me. This story moves from peace to pressure, from honor to hatred, and from safety to suffering. What happened to me did not happen in one day. It grew quietly until it exploded. Before we continue, please comment where you are watching or reading from. Let us know your country or city so we can connect as one family and continue to pray for one another. My name in this story is Yusuf Karim. The year was 2014, and I was 34 years old. I lived a life many people admired. I was raised in Islam from childhood. I learned how to read the Quran when I was still very young. As I grew older, I memorized many parts of it. People in my community respected me. They trusted me. They looked up to me. I became a Quran teacher. Every morning, I woke before sunrise. I washed, prayed, and prepared my heart. I taught children, teenagers, and even adults. Some of them were older than me, yet they listened with respect. Parents brought their children to me with pride. Elders greeted me with honor. On the outside, my life looked complete. On the inside, it was full of pressure. From the first day I became a teacher, I was watched closely. Everything I did mattered: how I spoke, how I walked, how I smiled, how long I stayed outside, what books I touched, who I talked to. Even silence could be seen as rebellion. Mistakes were not allowed. If I became tired, I was called weak. If I asked questions, I was seen as dangerous. If I showed kindness to outsiders, people became suspicious. The fear did not come with shouting at first. It came softly. It came through warnings. Elders showed me stories of others who failed. They revealed to me how people who stepped out of line lost their families. They showed me how some were beaten, rejected, or sent away. I learned early that obedience kept me safe. I taught children using simple words, but my own heart was heavy. I carried expectations like stones on my back. I smiled while my chest felt tight. I spoke about faith while hiding my own confusion deep inside. There were days I wanted to rest, but rest was called laziness. There were days I felt unsure, but doubt was called shame. Slowly, I learned to hide my feelings. At home, the pressure was even stronger. My relatives reminded me daily that I carried the family's honor. Any mistake I made would not only punish me, but everyone connected to me. My younger brothers watched me, my sisters followed my steps. I was not just Yusuf anymore. I was an example. This made fear grow inside me. I remember one evening clearly. I sat alone after teaching all day. My voice was gone. My body was tired. My heart felt empty. I looked at the floor and felt trapped, even though the room was open. That was the first time I realized something was wrong. But I stayed silent. I stayed because leaving meant losing everything. I stayed because questioning meant punishment. I stayed because fear was stronger than truth. This was my life before Texas. This was my life before the flood. This was my life before the encounter that changed everything. And without knowing it, the persecution had already begun, quiet, emotional, and deep, long before the water ever rose. I did not know that a single night of rain would open wounds I had hidden for years. What began as water falling from the sky became a mirror that showed me my fear, my loneliness, and the truth I was running from. That night still lives inside me. I had traveled to Texas to teach and learn more about faith. On the outside, it looked like a good step forward. On the inside, I was already tired. I carried pressure from my past and fear of the future. I believed changing places might quiet my thoughts. The rain started softly. At first, I did not worry. Rain was normal. I rested, believing the morning would come as usual. But as the hours passed, the sound grew louder. Water hit the ground harder. Wind pushed against the building like it was angry. Then everything changed fast. Water began to rise. Streets disappeared. Cars stopped moving. Power went out. Darkness filled the rooms. I was trapped inside, with no way to escape. My phone stopped working. Silence became heavy, broken only by the sound of rushing water. Fear entered my body. I moved from room to room, watching the water climb higher. My hands shook. My chest felt tight. I thought about my life, my teaching, and all the rules I had followed. I thought about how much I had suffered to stay accepted. In that moment, I felt very small. As the water touched my legs, memories flooded my mind. I remembered how people warned me not to think differently. They showed me stories of others who questioned and were punished. They revealed to me how families were torn apart because of belief. They showed me how respect could turn into hatred overnight. I realized something painful. Even far from home, the fear followed me. I tried to pray the way I had always prayed, but my heart felt empty. My words felt heavy. I felt like I was speaking into the air. Panic grew stronger. Death felt close. I believed this might be the end of my story, and in that fear, I felt abandoned. I remembered how, if I ever changed my beliefs, I would lose everyone. I remembered how teachers who left were chased away. Some were beaten, some were disowned, some were called dead while still alive. Their names were erased, their children were taken, their lives were destroyed. This was persecution without chains, but it hurt just as much. As the water rose to my waist, I cried without sound. I did not want to die misunderstood. I did not want my life to end in fear. I felt like a prisoner of decisions I never fully chose. That was when something inside me broke. Not my body, but my pride. I realized that all my suffering, all my obedience, all my silence had not saved me from fear. The system that promised protection had only trained me to be afraid. Even now, alone in the flood, I felt watched by rules that could not rescue me. The water reached my chest. I struggled to breathe. My strength faded. I felt helpless in a way I had never felt before. I was not a teacher. I was not respected. I was not strong. I was just a man afraid to die. And right there, surrounded by water and darkness, my old life began to slip away. I did not know it yet, but this flood was not only washing streets and houses. It was washing my certainty. It was washing my fear. It was preparing me for something I never expected. The persecution had shaped me. The flood broke me. And what came next would change everything I believed. What happened next is the moment I tried to forget, but it refused to leave me. Even now, when I close my eyes, that moment rises again, stronger than fear, stronger than water, stronger than everything I once believed. This is where my life truly turned. The water stopped rising. I did not understand why. Everything around me was still dark and broken, yet something felt different. My body was weak, but my mind was awake. Fear was still there, but it no longer ruled me. In that stillness, I became aware that I was not alone. It was not the feeling of someone standing beside me with a body. It was deeper than that. It felt like peace entering a place where fear had lived for years. My heart slowed. My breathing became calm. I became aware of Jesus. No voice spoke with sound. No mouth moved. Yet understanding filled me. He revealed himself to me in a way that went beyond words. He showed me care without anger. He showed me love without conditions. He showed me life without fear. I felt seen. Not as a teacher, not as a rule keeper, not as a representative of a system. I felt seen as a human being. He revealed to me that he knew my pain. He showed me that he had watched every moment of pressure, every hidden tear, every fear I swallowed to survive. He made me understand that my suffering mattered. For the first time in my life, belief did not feel like force. I did not feel threatened. I did not feel judged. I did not feel watched for mistakes. I felt safe. In that moment, I understood something that shook me deeply. I realized that love was not meant to be earned through fear. Faith was not meant to be enforced through punishment. Truth was not meant to silence pain. This realization frightened me more than the flood, because I knew what this meant. If I accepted this truth, my life would never be the same. I knew the cost before I even made a decision. I remembered the stories I was shown growing up. I remembered how people who followed Jesus were hunted, mocked, beaten, and rejected. I remembered how families cut ties. I remembered how names were turned into curses. I remembered how lives were destroyed slowly and publicly. The persecution rushed back into my mind. I saw myself losing my job. I saw myself losing my family. I saw myself becoming an enemy to people who once loved me. I saw loneliness stretching before me like a long road with no shelter. My body was still in the flood, but my spirit was facing a greater storm. Yet, even with all that fear, the peace did not leave. Jesus did not push me. He did not threaten me. He did not demand. He showed me truth and allowed me to choose. That alone broke me. I realized that everything I had endured before was control dressed as faith. What I was experiencing now was freedom wrapped in love. And that difference changed my heart. Rescue teams came later. They pulled me out of the water. My body survived the flood, but the man who entered it did not come out the same. I walked away alive, but I carried a secret heavier than any water. I had encountered Jesus, and I knew that choosing him would bring persecution unlike anything I had ever known. But for the first time, fear no longer had the final word. The flood saved my body, the encounter awakened my soul, and the suffering that followed would prove just how costly truth can be. This is the part of my story many people try to silence because it exposes pain they do not want to see. What I gained in truth, I lost in safety. What I found in faith, I paid for with tears, rejection, and deep wounds that still ache. This is the cost of my decision. After the flood and the encounter, I returned to normal life on the outside. Inside, nothing was normal anymore. My heart had changed. My thinking had changed. My fears had new meaning. I tried to hide it at first. I went back to teaching. I stood before people who trusted me. My hands moved, my mouth spoke, but my heart was no longer there. Every lesson felt heavy. Every prayer felt like a lie. I felt trapped inside my own body. The pressure became unbearable. I stopped attending gatherings as often. I withdrew slowly. People noticed. Leaders became suspicious. Friends became distant. Family members began to watch me closely. They showed me concern on the surface, but underneath there was fear and anger. Soon, questions came. I did not announce my decision. I did not shout it, but truth has a way of leaking out. Someone saw the books I read. Someone noticed my silence. Someone reported me. That was when the persecution became real. I was called in and confronted. They showed me disappointment. They revealed to me that I had brought shame. They made me understand that I had crossed a line that could not be erased. I lost my position. People who once greeted me crossed the street to avoid me. Children I taught were pulled away. Parents warned others not to speak to me. My phone stopped ringing. My name became a warning. At home, it was worse. Family members turned cold. Some cried in anger. Some threatened me. They showed me that love now came with conditions. They revealed to me that I was no longer trusted, no longer safe, no longer welcome. I was pushed out emotionally before I was pushed out physically. There were days I slept hungry, days I hid indoors out of fear, days I felt watched wherever I went. I received messages filled with hate. Some wished me dead, some said I deserved suffering, some said my blood was permitted. This was persecution without mercy. I lost my community, I lost my security, I lost my identity. I carried fear everywhere. Every knock on the door made my heart race. Every stranger felt like danger. I lived like a shadow, hiding simply for believing differently. But even in that pain, I was not alone. Jesus remained near. He showed me strength when I was weak. He revealed peace in moments I should have broken. He helped me endure nights of crying and days of rejection. I learned that following him did not remove suffering. It gave meaning to suffering. Today, my life is simpler. But it is true. I still carry scars. I still grieve what I lost. But I no longer live in fear of punishment. I live in hope. To Christians across the world, I ask you to pray. Pray for those who are beaten, rejected, imprisoned, and killed for their faith. Pray for those hiding in silence. Pray for those who want to follow Jesus but fear losing everything. Your prayers matter more than you know. And if you are reading this and your heart feels heavy with guilt or sin, you can turn to God right now. You can pray simply from your heart. You can tell God that you believe Jesus is the Son of God, that he died and rose again, that you are sorry for your sins and that you want him to lead your life. You can ask for forgiveness, new life, and strength to follow him. God hears sincere hearts. No matter where you are, no matter what you have done, no matter what it may cost you, truth is worth the price. Faith is worth the pain, and love is stronger than fear. I lost many things because of my decision, but I did not lose my soul. What was taken from me by people was replaced with peace inside my heart. Even when fear followed me, I knew I was no longer walking in darkness. Persecution showed me who truly loved me and who loved only the image I carried. Pain became my teacher. Rejection became my road. Through it all, I learned that truth does not always come with comfort, but it always comes with freedom. I now live quietly, trusting God one day at a time. Some days are still hard, some nights are still lonely. Yet I wake up with hope, knowing that Jesus walks with those the world pushes away. If my story reaches you, let it remind you that faith is not cheap, but it is precious. Stand firm, Pray for the persecuted, and never forget that light shines brightest where darkness tries to win.